In this video, we're going to finish part 4 of Add Services in our Angular tutorial. In the first part, we saw how the UI could be decoupled from the source of the data by injecting a service, creating and injecting a service into the UI. The service is here. This time, we've made the return type of this asynchronous, paving the way for an API call to a web service that will be inherently asynchronous. We're still using our fixed data source, but now we're returning an asynchronous method signature. We do that by wrapping the return type of the method in an observable that comes from the RxJS library. We also wrap our data array in an of method. This is an observable that emits a single value. This makes our return type compatible with the return type of the observable. An observable containing a hero array. Let's look at the use of this. Remembering now that hero services.getHeroes is asynchronous, it's going to return right away. So let's say it takes a few minutes or a few seconds to get the heroes array. This returns right away. It then has a subscribe method that provides a callback method to say, call this method when you're finished fetching the data. So no matter how long getHeroes takes to return, this is done and finished, and it no longer blocks the message queue for JavaScript. And the callback method is called when the data is satisfied. Everything else works the same way, and now you can see we can fetch the heroes, and we have this message down here. That's another part of part 4 of this tutorial. We'll do that next. In order to be able to display application-wide messages, we've created a messages component here, a typical UI component in Angular. Let's look at the TypeScript file for this component. We have dependency injection of messages service. So the messages service is also created in this step, and we'll look at it next. It's injected here, and it's public. So this is a public data member, and we do that because we're going to bind properties of the message service in the template. And in order to do that, public property, it has to be a public property. Here in the messages template, we have the ngIf that starts this in the div to say if we, go away if you don't have messages. We create a button that's clear button here, and on click, we're going to call the clear method. It'll clear these messages here. We then use ng4 to loop through all the messages and add and append them to this list here. Remember, ng4 will create a div item for each of the ng4 messages. We saw earlier that we injected the message service via this constructor, so we can display the messages. It's a read only. Let's look at message service next. So this service is defined at the root of the application. It's injectable, meaning that it can be dependency injected, as we saw in the messages code here. That's using dependency injection. So we don't create the message service object. The Angular framework creates it and injects it into this class via the constructor. A writer of messages would use the add method to add messages. This is the JavaScript way of adding to the end of an array. JavaScript arrays work more like array lists in Java. That is, you can expand and contract the array. And we use the JavaScript method push to add to the end of the array, which is a simple array here. Array of strings. Starts out empty, of course, as we see here. Empty. When we hit the refresh button, we see the only message right now, fetched heroes. The hero service then has this service injected into it. It uses it down here in getHeroes to add a message, hero service fetched heroes, and we can see that when the page is refreshed. getHeroes is called on the initialized of the page, and here we see fetched heroes coming down here. The message service is injected in one other component in order to achieve this. We have this list of history, essentially, of heroes that have been clicked on here. In order to build this history of clicked on components, we add this message service. We inject it to the heroes component. That's where the on-click handler is for this selection. It then adds a message using string interpolation. This backtick, $, curly braces allows you to insert a data item inside of a string here. And this is the second place where our message service adds a message. The first one, of course, being fetched heroes, and then this click method adds it via string interpolation. So here, this component, the heroes component, now has two services being injected: the data service, hero service, and the message service, which is the application-wide messaging service. I hope you can see that we're starting to build a pretty robust Angular framework that could be used for quite sophisticated applications. Thank you.